Hello, I am FerrousPilot bringing you some information on the upcoming patch to Overwatch, which includes the much anticipated competitive game mode and more. This video will cover a brief overview of the patch notes, along with some discussion and analysis of competitive mode based on my experience trying it out in the public test region. Of course, you can always try it out yourself if you're interested. One thing that sticks out in the patch notes is the increased volume of Widowmaker's ultimate. Now when she says,
Personne n'échappe à mon regard,
you'll actually be able to hear it, which is a positive change because wallhax already don't have any counterplay. It's even worse when you don't realize they're active. The removal of the avoid this player function is also an interesting choice. Overwatch director Jeff Kaplan has left a sizable post in the Battle.net forums explaining matchmaking, and it also explains the motivation behind this change. I'll post a link to it in the video description if you'd like to read it yourself. As it turns out, people were abusing the system to avoid players more skilled than themselves. This change is meant to put a stop to that kind of behavior, but it also means you have no immediate recourse against griefers other than reporting them and praying the matchmaker has mercy. A good middle ground I've seen suggested is the idea that avoiding players should only prevent them from being on your team. This way players can safely avoid griefers and don't have any incentive to avoid those better than them. That being said, this kind of feature still creates issues for the matchmaker and increases queue times. After all, 6 players each have their own avoided players list that the matchmaker must reconcile, along with factors like skill level and ping. While I haven't personally had any issues finding matches, my skill level is also close enough to normal that players of my skill are abundant. For people on the extremes, this change may indeed be a very important one. So with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's talk competitive mode. The way competitive mode works is that it's broken down into 3-month seasons. At the start of each season, you have to play 10 placement matches, which Overwatch uses to determine your skill rating from 0 to 100. The higher the better. After that, your skill rating can rise or fall depending on your performance. Anytime a person leaves a competitive match, the match will end in 30 seconds and have no effect on anyone's skill rating. This is probably the most fair way of doing things, but I can see it being frustrating to players if people leave towards the end when they know they've lost, especially since competitive matches can be so much longer than quick play games. Luckily, the Overwatch dev team has thought up harsher leaver penalties for competitive mode, including suspensions and bans from competitive mode for up to an entire season. I think that this should be enough to dissuade people from leaving games. Moving on, competitive mode is broken down into matches comprised of multiple games and a point-based system. The team with the highest number of points at the end wins. If it's a tie, the game goes into sudden death. On payload maps, each team plays a game on offense and a game on defense. Reaching a checkpoint gives the attackers 1 point for a total of 3 possible points. Sudden death randomly places one team on attack and the other on defense. The attacking team has a few minutes to get to the initial checkpoint and win, otherwise they lose. Capture point maps are similar. Each team plays a game on offense and a game on defense. Capturing a point gives the attackers 1 point for a total of 2 possible points. Sudden death works the same way as on payload maps, but instead of pushing a payload, the attackers must capture the first point. On control maps, it's pretty much the same as in quick play, but it's a best of 5 rounds instead of 3. Now let's talk about how this affects the gameplay. A best of 5 reduces the variance of the outcome on control maps, and the fact that payload and capture point maps are played once on attack and once on defense makes them a lot more fair as well. The slight wrinkle in all of this is the nature of sudden death. Whichever team is chosen to be on offense on the sudden death game on payload or capture point maps has a huge advantage. They're much closer to spawn, so death is not as big of an issue, and they only really need to make one big push to succeed. Now the issue with this is not that it's unfair in the long term, because across many games, things will even out, and I'm pretty sure Overwatch's skill rating algorithm takes things like individual performance and attacker advantage into account. The real issue is that it damn well feels unfair to players, because we tend to evaluate matches on an individual basis. And it can be argued that this is a problem with the players and their cognitive biases, but if player psychology can be accommodated, then why not do so? In the beta, competitive mode used control point maps as tiebreakers because of the symmetrical nature of the game mode, and I can't help but feel like that's still the better solution. Plus, this kind of disparity means that the officially sanctioned competitive rule set for Overwatch is not usable in a tournament setting because of the inherent lack of fairness, which could be damaging to the esports scene. After all, the current timing-based approach used in tournaments, while fair, is kind of annoying to watch when teams resort to running out the clock by switching to Tracer. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Has Blizzard managed to strike a good balance between the fun and fair in their competitive mode, or is there room for improvement? Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on the public test region update if you've had a chance to play it.